Welcome, everyone, to another episode of winningwithwalmart.com, where we discuss innovative strategies and ongoing trends in the omnichannel marketplace, specifically dealing with Walmart. My name is Ryan King. I'm CEO and co-founder of BlueRyse. We're a full managed service agency for retail and native e-commerce brands working with Walmart. And I'm happy to have today as my guest, Tim Caton. He's a innovative premium brand builder. He currently leads Walmart seasonal sales for a leading premium brand in the grocery space. And as an analytical yet creative problem solver, Tim takes a guerrilla approach to developing premium brands in the big box. When he's not creating show-stopping confectionary features, he's enjoying exploring trails around his home in Northwest Arkansas. So, Tim, thank you so much for joining us again today.
Hey, Ryan, it's great to be here and love your podcast and everything you guys do. And it's just a pleasure to join you today.
Fantastic. Well, I remember from previous conversations, one thing I've enjoyed about our conversations is you are very cognizant of large emerging trends, and as well as this guerrilla type level, getting down to the aisle and actually seeing facts on the ground as they are. And so I'm looking forward to the conversation today, talking about the ongoing trends. I think from the last time we talked till now, even probably just been from further emerging trends you're seeing. Specific to, as we've discussed, kind of the difference between e-commerce in the general merchandising aisle versus center store and how that's impacting business and approach. So with that, why don't we just start the conversation a bit with, I'd love to hear from your perspective, kind of the unique challenges or opportunities that come for you with managing a highly seasonal business in retail sector, especially at a major retailer like Walmart.
There's so many challenges that go with a highly seasonalized business, but I think those of us who are dug into them think of it as the fun we look forward to every day when we go to work. It's a world in which, and our Walmart counterparts will always remind us that we don't own shelf space inside Walmart, but in a highly seasonal business, you really don't have shelf space, right? It's every year we redraw, we start fresh, and that can be in center store, that can be in toys, it can be in stationery, and in any of those kind of product lines or seasonal areas. The fun of it is which is, I guess, the challenge, is ensuring that you have the right product in the right place at the right time for the shopper. And we have to plan so far out in the seasonal business for, a 6 or 8 week season that there's a data prediction, but also kind of an art form that goes with it. So it's a fun business. It's a business that never slows down. And I think increasingly that's the case.
With seasonal, it's like you're getting a lot of at-bats. It seems like, it's not just one evergreen kind of listing, one evergreen product on the shelf space, like you're saying. How much of your insights and kind of in general, in your experience, how much is just iterative understanding and growth? How much is learned from those multiple at-bats versus how much of it is new every time? Any surprises there?
Yeah, I think we do ourselves a disservice when we think about seasonal versus an everyday business as separate animals. And again, that can be in any category in the store. Seasonal, because of all the at-bats in seasonal, we have an opportunity to see what really works, what resonates with a shopper, what a shopper can find browsing on a shelf. And if you look at a seasonal shelf, especially, there's usually so much going on that if your product sticks out on a seasonal shelf and gets found, it's probably a big winner. We also find out what doesn't work. Now, is it always right? No, because again, what doesn't happen in a very loud, very compelling shelf in a 6 or 8 week, very short season doesn't necessarily speak to how the shopper works on an everyday basis and an everyday shopping list. But it gives us insight that we wouldn't have otherwise. And I think it gives the retailer insight that Walmart wouldn't have otherwise. Ultimately, we can sort of squish that all together and better serve the customer.
Gotcha. And so I'm picking up kind of one of the things we talked about last time as well, the necessity in this, both from taking those learnings, but also sharing the learnings back and forth with the retailer, in this case with Walmart. Kind of in general, what kind of recaps on what are some best practices in that sharing when you gather those insights or when you see a standout or something's not working in general? What does that look like?
The most important thing is open and ongoing communication. And the amount of communication we have depends, of course, on our relative importance within a category. And some of us can talk to buyers every day, and some of us can only talk to buyers a couple of times a year. But the open, clear communication is the most important part, because as we see products that work and don't work on the shelf, the buyer needs to know about them, because the worst thing that's ever going to happen is for the buyer to find that out his or herself from, a data dump.
Gotcha. So no surprises. Lead with the information. I remember one of the terms that Walmart would talk about a lot is proactive supplier partner, and so this would definitely fit that bill.
It does, and there's so much more than what we think of as basic category insights too that go along, especially with a highly seasonal business. So merchants, yeah, they want to know where they rank, and they want to know their share, and they want to know opportunity, and they want to know gaps, right? The same kind of thing that we would present in any category. But in seasons too, they want to know what's actually happening inside the store, because it's so compressed. So we talk to shoppers. We can do that increasingly through Walmart Luminate, and it becomes a single source of truth. We talk to associates in the store. We go in the store. We work in the store. We go work on the back room. At the same time, we're doing the exact same stuff on .com. So we're shopping like shoppers, right? There's so many data sources that we have that tell us what's happening on .com, but the putting ourselves in the shoes of the customer and clicking like the customer does and shopping like the customer does are how we can really bring different insights that don't look like something that was put together by an AI.
Gotcha. Yeah. So in that realm, we're talking about, you're saying you're experiencing things as a shopper through the click as well as through walking the aisle physically as well. Kind of what, given the nature of what you're seeing, how does someone in your role, ensure the assortment of your products, both online and brick and mortar, especially as you have all these changes rolling consistently? How do you go about, or what would you say best practices are for ensuring that the assortment is available, that it is accurate, the brand, both matching brand voice or seasonality of promotion, those kind of elements? How would someone go about making sure all of that assortment is correct in both forms?
There's so much planning involved to get all that right, because when we're thinking about an 8-week window, we have to prepare everything long in advance. There's no room for campaigns that don't start on time. There's no room for campaigns that don't end on time. There's no room for poor localization. There's no room for any of that, because we don't have time to go and read a campaign and then fix it. So everything has to be done right. Increasingly, shoppers in all categories of the store, is no secret to any of us, are shopping in a true omni way. And I think that's grown even more than it did, say, a year ago when we look at some categories that were heavily omni. Now almost every category is heavily omni. So as we plan that out, we have to think about what the shopper's seeing when the shopper clicks, but then also what the shopper sees in store and how we can bring that all together. Because as we have fewer, whether percentage or seconds of a shopper's attention span, we have to help that shopper really connect and understand and see and bring that home, ultimately to convert a sale.
Yeah, and especially when you have such a limited amount of time with seasonality, but also kind of being on the premium end of things, that level of trust from the shopper has to be there, or maybe to put it negatively, it could be easily lost in some ways. And so what you see is what you get is kind of one of those key elements. What are some best practices you're seeing on making sure those dots connect appropriately? You got the pre-planning, but also anything else come to mind?
Yeah, I think there's a few steps to understanding, or there's a few steps to introduce a premium brand inside Walmart and premium product inside Walmart. And the first one, is you point out, it's the correct assortment. And the correct assortment that we have in year one is not the same correct assortment we have in year three. We have to catch the shopper and help the shopper understand that our product's there. And that's problem number one. And we can do that in part through assortment, and we do the other part through all sorts of different communication vehicles that are open to us, right? Um, then the shopper has to trust the product, because usually in premium categories, we're not going to see a first conversion of a shopper household customer as being a full shop. We might see a single item transact, right? And we haven't necessarily changed our brand loyalty or our retailer loyalty over. There's a mistrust among shoppers that when we see premium products at an everyday low price, that product is the same one that we would buy at a more expensive retailer. Don't know why it's there. It's been there in every premium category I've played with. So we have to then build the trust. And then over time, we can adjust the assortment and grow the assortment so we stop leakage.
Gotcha. So building that trust through the shopper journey, kind of in general, in your observations of these trends, what is that shopper journey looking like? Kind of maybe at a macro level, with the increasing e-commerce strategy moving into center store, those things. What are you seeing?
I mean, it's funny. It wasn't that long ago that the shopper journey really would start at a point of interruption inside the store. And then the shopper might go and look to see, hey, what are these items that are being sold in the store? And then go through the trust process, right? Now, I think we're seeing that shopper journey begin in the click, right? So we're on our phone, we're on socials, we're talking to friends, whatever it is. But there's a trend, there's something that we want to be part of. There's a growth. We want to change something in our lives. That brings us to premium at retail. Once we get to premium at retail, then we have to find increasingly a place where we can afford it, because that's become such a hot button recently. That's where we can begin to grow the shopper trust in a venue like Walmart.
Gotcha. So identifying even in that retail media or other things, where's the effective for upper funnel consideration down to where are you really getting conversion to add that value into cart as you're building that basket. So identifying where they are, and is there in general any best practices you're seeing on post purchase as well? As you identified, it may not be a full brand conversion yet, may not be a full retailer conversion. As you nurture that through the post initial purchase, kind of what trends you're seeing with shoppers, specifically even with Walmart, maybe.
Yeah, I think we as brand marketers, and ultimately we're all brand marketers one way or another, can build an understanding for how our brand grows with shoppers over time, and then we can apply that inside Walmart. It's not terribly hard math, but we have to help the shopper grow within the way the shopper grows and shops in a medium. And that's a lot of words to say. In a highly seasonalized category, we might see multiple shopper trips, and the shopper trip increasingly begins online. Then we see a point in the store. Then we make our list and we go back for the actual shop. And we might get one or two shots on the actual shop. We must communicate, but also help the shopper not become overwhelmed by choice or overwhelmed by information, because increasingly that shopper knows what she or he already wants to buy anyway. And it's a matter of bringing that shopper into our home retailer.
Gotcha. So not hitting them with everything you've got to where it's overload of information, whether it's retargeting, anything else, identifying those key moments. You mentioned the data and those things, and obviously Walmart's moved from kind of DSS and the old school reporting out of Retail Link into Luminate, and there's kind of the a bit of whether it's charter or basic. Definitely charter's the well-oiled machine. You're getting a lot of data and potential there on that shopper journey, including offline and online, and those elements. And then basic is maybe less informative on the .com side and those elements. Let's say for best practice for let's just say I assume you've seen the charter side and see the data there. Let's assume for maybe people who are listening that a lot of emerging brands or others, challenger brands that maybe not in the charter side, but they're trying to figure out how do I squeeze every last drop of what I do get And what are some other ways that I could connect dots? Maybe if there's best practice you've had in like you said, walking the physical aisle or taking the journey through online yourselves, what would you advise as a general best practice, given .com is going to be maybe just click for pickup today or those kind of elements, but not a whole lot of others, not a lot of other elements there. What would you say to them when they're looking for the data?
It's a tough one not to have charter right now. And, I understand I'm talking to the Bentonville supplier community, so we'll kind of be careful here. But Mr. Sam had some pretty strong opinions about how data were to be shared with suppliers. It's tough when that's behind a paywall that looks insurmountable to suppliers. That said, data costs money, and data on the level of what we can access through Charter Luminate costs a lot of money. Is it worth it? From a supplier perspective, it's not often that we have a single source of truth with our customer, with our retailer, that's universally trusted. So whether we love it or not, and whether we love the bill or not, there's a lot of guerrilla ways that we can go around Luminate right now, but it's going to get pretty difficult to play inside the box without having access to that source of truth. So I think all those guerrilla tactics, and I love them inside the store, are that once drove our sales and once drove, say, category management for suppliers who didn't have category management available. I used to be in hardware, and there was nobody was supplying hardware at the time. Now those become a way of boosting what we learn inside Luminate and supporting what we learn inside Luminate. But that key that is Luminate is almost a necessity right now. And if it isn't right now, I think it's going to be in a year or two.
Gotcha. So from your perspective, not only is it kind of a necessary component of just table stakes to get the data that you need to be nimble to grow your share in the market, but the ROI you're saying is there because it's a trusted single source of truth about the actual targeted shopper that you're working with through Walmart.
It's a trusted single source of truth, which means if we don't have the single source of truth, our competitors may.
Yeah. So as we zoom out a little bit, we talked about adjusting product assortments, those kind of elements, and as you're going back to that many at bats kind of idea, and looking at the data you get from online and in store, those elements. Kind of what are some best practices around adjusting assortments? How are you making those adjustments both to optimize sales, minimize leakage, those kind of elements? Best practice, what does that decision-making process look like?
It wasn't that long ago that the decision practice was almost based entirely on sell-through in seasons, right? So it whether we're selling toys or stationery or candy, it doesn't matter. Did I sell through at an optimum level across the retail chain? And that was just the answer, because nobody had time to think about anything else. But now, as we look in seasons, maybe driven a little bit by Luminate, is everybody's becoming a little more sophisticated. We can look beyond that, and we look at what are the best practices? Sell-through always matters, but leakage matters. Total value of shopper to the store matters. When we're in a premium place, leakage might mean, okay, fine, the Walmart lost a single sale in 10% of the category, which is maybe what premium usually is, right? If premium's 5 to 10% of your categories. But what's that really mean? Well, in premium, it tends to mean that you lose the entire shopping trip in season. So where, you might have lost a $10 ring, but in fact, you've lost a $100 basket or a $200 basket. and then we can, using some tools, we can actually trace where that basket goes and see which other retailer grabs it. Online effectiveness is now important across the entire box at Walmart. And I think even a year ago, it wasn't. Proving that we're creating a great online basket as well as an in-store basket, and then possibly even getting that shopper to pick up at the store and then run back in for that last item or two that didn't make it into the shop, which seems to happen, half the time, is a critical component that can sort of move the retailer along. So if my single widget is the critical piece of, say, a Christmas shop, that widget being gone means that entire Christmas shop, including the online pickup, goes somewhere else, which includes that last minute run-in trip, which is usually a convenience, high margin convenience item, right?
Gotcha. So just the factors consider growing quite a bit, and in a lot of ways as to how that affects the decision on that assortment and what you're going to pull or replace, or what you're going to do, repeat. And I imagine that's incredibly valuable in that discussion with your merchant, as we're talking about a category level overall trip to store for those merchants. One of the concepts I've heard, and we've discussed previously with others, regards the view of the PDP when we're talking about that .com side and the impact it has now on the overall consideration for the shopper. Talking about not just at the point of conversion, but various points of the shopper journey, pre-shop, point of conversion, even post-shop, and how that PDP is servicing the brand and the shopper by providing the right data, those things. Have you seen in general that play out, or shoppers visiting multiple times or different points? Any thoughts on that, of how that's helping in the seasonal side?
I think there's a few pieces going on there, and one of them is just on a very simple level, just helping our shopper drill down to helping our shopper overcome the problem of choice, right? Because when we're online, the choices become overwhelming, and clear communication to our customer is the key, really, to unlocking that and helping the customer get over the just complexities of choice and the things that will scare that shopper off somewhere else. So that's probably step one. But then we have to help shoppers navigate our category. And again, clarity on that PDP is something that, I mean, it's so important. We're starting to see it in some cases make its way to packaging and merchandising in the stores, right? As we see clarity online, a few years ago was a best practice for us to change our on-pack communication slightly on our Omni photos, right? So it was a little more legible. And then at some point, somebody realized, wait, maybe packaging inside the store should be legible too. So, and we're seeing that, right, in categories all throughout the store, that best practice image that we see online is actually reflecting in bricks and mortar packaging. So it might, in fact, be just helping all of us grow our game as suppliers who are kind of by our nature supposed to be helping the customer in the shopping journey, right? We're not about putting goods on the shelf or filling a fulfillment center. We're really about providing value. And watching the online shopper journey is sort of in seasons very quick, but quick and rough and hard, but wonderful data and experience trove for us to understand how that shopper really works and then be able to provide that value.
And kind of interested there. I'm curious about some more best practices, maybe of, this is the coordination between like the physical product team, the online side. And so in general, best practices about sharing that information. Like what are the types of insights in general, best practice wise, of the coordination between the two, of the physical and the digital?
one of the most important, because we're hearing the most about it inside the store now, is just nil picks and understanding the effectiveness of our in-store merchandising versus our offline merchant or online merchandising. And, I think historically we think about nil picks as whether I have enough goods on the shelf or whether I can find my stuff on the shelf. And yeah, that's totally a big piece of it. But another piece of it is that omni cycle that we all like to talk about, because we all talk in terms, right, of omni flywheels and 360s and all that kind of thing. Is that really resonating inside the store? Because the picker who's trying to pick the goods, in a lot of cases, is also our customer. So if we have a dichotomy between what's happening online and what we're actually seeing inside the store, that picker might not even be able to find it, because the picker, who is also a consumer, has an expectation as to what they're going to find inside the store. The best practice is going to be if we really do have this flywheel that we all love to talk about, but if we bring it back, and I think we're seeing a little bit of it inside the stores now, getting better and better, that helps our pickers inside the store find products, because again, they're also consumers. We forget that a lot. And then that drives the entire business better, because that omni business is just so important to every retailer who's out there right now, and consequently important to us as suppliers.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been one of those points over time. That's a great one that we've seen as we've advised brands, pick up today is such a major driver in the grocery section of the business with Walmart in this omni-channel shopper journey. And remembering that your picker really is a key element in your customer there, especially when they have the decision on the time clock, on that route they're running to get those things to basket as fast as possible. Do they substitute or do they not? And so a key decision in the shopper's basket might be made for them if that's not readily available. So on the bright side, we see Walmart making technological advances, with the digitized shopping tags and the lights that'll blink for that picker as they're walking by to try and find it in shelf. But you can see quickly how merchandising on shelf and online and the matching of the two is critical. Yeah, that's fantastic insight. So making sure your physical team and physical merchandising team and inventory tracking is coordinating well with your online side to make sure that you're removing as much friction as possible, whether it's the individual shopper or even those pickers, is a great insight. What do you see kind of that the Walmart pressing forward with technology on the tags and for pickers, those things is one example maybe of this, but looking ahead, what other new developments do you see or innovations do you see coming up or that you hope come up that might enhance e-commerce and in-store integration?
I think if I had to choose one thing that I'd love to reinvent or revolutionize, and this is for associates, this is for customers, this is for us as suppliers, it's the ability to find products inside a store. And as we're turning faster and faster, and as we're keeping fewer weeks of supply inside a store, and our shelf space is being considered more and more valuable inside a store, that ability to physically find the product, whether it's on the shelf or in the back room, is a key to everybody's game. A product that can't be found in the back room doesn't make it to the shelf. A product that's on the shelf that maybe doesn't communicate clearly isn't necessarily merchandised properly. And if the product isn't merchandised properly and that little light turns on, it happens to be in the wrong slot, we might unintentionally get the wrong thing in the cart. So there's got to be this kind of perfection of the chain that ends at point of sale, whether that was a click or whether that's a picker on a shelf, to actually find and locate and put the right product in and avoid the substitutions that most of us don't want to have happen. I wish I knew how to fix that. I really wish I knew how to fix that. I've talked about how much I'd love to ship in master cartons that have flashing lights on the side and, sound and things like that. Of course, we can't do any of that stuff, but how do we find product? How do we get it there? How do we simplify the entire process?
Yeah, that is a we're talking multiple types of supply chains at this point. We're talking, the term out there now, not only in traditional supply chain, but content supply chain, all these other things. How do you plan and execute on those in those pipelines effectively at every point? I do think, probably if we talk again in 6 months from now, there'll hopefully be more things we hear about and more solutions. Hopefully, not probably new problems to solve for given those solutions, but considerations of drone delivery and its impact on consideration for merchandising, whatever it may be. But it is a fascinating time to be in the space, and it's really exciting to see. Any other thoughts as we're kind of wrapping up here? And I appreciate your insights. This is always fun to hear from people who are doing it day in, day out, and doing it at a high level, executing at a high level here. And so, Tim, your insights are invaluable. Any other things that's, when we think about this world of the omni-channel, specifically with Walmart, talking about seasonality with a premium brand in the center of the store, any other things that come to mind that are just compelling to you, or things you think would be helpful for other people to know?
Yeah, I think first of all, the most important thing is really we must stop, and we've said this for so long, but we must stop thinking about store versus .com, because that doesn't exist anymore, and it really is truly omni. And it's funny, you'll have folks who aren't thinking that way, and you'll see them in the middle of a boring meeting shopping online, like during that meeting, right? So we really live in a world where there's no separation between e-com and in-store. By the same token, in-store is how we fulfill our e-com, increasing almost always at Walmart, right? Especially in center store. So how do we do that? And how do we think that way? As you pointed out, it's tough sometimes through our data. And if we don't have the budget for something like Luminate Charter, it's increasingly difficult for us to be able to figure out what those metrics are that matter. So how can we do it? Well, we can do it by putting ourselves in the shoes of the shopper. And that's what we have to do on a regular basis. And maybe that shopper is the shopper who's at home clicking, and maybe that shopper is the picker who's in the store. And it almost doesn't matter, right? Because we have to think in that entire supply chain. For example, if we work as a regular shopper, or think as a regular shopper, and put ourselves in those shoes, and maybe get away from some of our data sources. And believe me, I love leveraging data, but maybe we'll decide to try one of those drone deliveries. And when we try one of those drone deliveries, we realize how gentle they are. And there's a lot of products that we're not necessarily comfortable putting through fulfillment centers, because who knows what FedEx is going to do them. And even sometimes home delivery drivers aren't maybe as gentle with things as we want. But man, I'm not sure what you can't put in one of those drones, because it drops things onto your lawn light as a feather, right? And I've been involved in a lot of categories where breakage is a major issue in fulfillment. So those things matter. Spending time in the stores matters. Spending time with pickers matters. I mean, if you're in the store and you see a picker in your aisle, help the picker out, because first of all, that picker's on metrics and you ain't. So they might really appreciate it. But the second thing is, you'll learn why your products aren't being picked as well. Maybe the image format you use isn't working on their handheld, right? It's stuff like that you'll never figure out unless you're physically in the store. By the same token, get in the back, try to find your products, try to find your stuff in the back, because if you can't find it and you can't pick it, they can't either. So all these things come together, and it's wild that we live in this new world of a truly omni shop that's almost gone back to pre-self-service retail, and a little bit after that, Sam Walton's advice to eat what you cook, because that's kind of what everything comes down to now.
Man, well, you've certainly insights shared from certainly years of experience and seeing a lot of those cycles. And so Tim, thank you for sharing those nuggets. I look forward to future conversations as we hear about what else is coming down the pike here and what we can be learning. But thank you so much for your time. As people maybe they want to glean your thoughts for other expert insights, those things, how can people get in touch with you?
I mean, I love to think of myself as an expert. That's great. No, I'm on LinkedIn, and it's the best way to get a hold of me.
Fantastic. Well, we'll definitely link to you there. And as always, a pleasure, Tim. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with us.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.